you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. You're all too kind. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome to the new yearly tradition, I guess we do here now. That is the Reviewing Network Awards. This is the third annual Reviewing Network Awards, and this has become the norm here to do this show every year. That is kind of our alternative to the Academy Awards, which are coming up tomorrow night, and is a very wide open race. It's definitely a race where there are definitely more question marks than there are certainties, even though we are starting to see a little bit of the potential frontrunners coming into play in the last couple of weeks, but anything is possible tomorrow night. I mean, this is about as wide open as I've seen in a long, long time. Who's winning Best Picture? Who's going to get Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor? Nobody really is a lock at this point, as far as I know. But then again, we'll find out tomorrow night if it is about who takes home what. But it's definitely going to be fun to watch, especially it'll be fun if a really good movie that I've seen actually wins here. But before we get to those, of course, we have this little program here that I created as sort of an alternative to the Academy Awards to honor the movies, the performances, the stuff that I thought was pretty good this year that the Academy usually would overlook. And even though there are films that the Oscars did look at this year and that did nominate, there are definitely some things in this list of nominees that I have here tonight that more than likely would not be seen in a regular award show. So this is my chance to give these movies one last bit of respect from me as somebody who has selected these. And I've also brought you folks into the mix as well, because when I put out the nominations a couple months ago, actually earlier in the month, I should say, we had the edition of the Worst Year in Hollywood Award, which I do have the results for you right here, but we'll save that for the end of the show. And I'm also bringing back a thing I started doing in the very first video I did, the If We Pick the Oscar show, about the worst nominations and the worst Oscar snub at the Academy Awards. So we have a lot to get to here. We also have 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards to give away tonight to 2 different people, adding to the list of Steven Spielberg and Denzel Washington from years past. So we have a lot to get to here, so sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and let's get to it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's not delve into any big production numbers, big musical numbers, some more me just rambling in your time here. Let's get to the awards here. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it with the first nominations with the first award we have here, the Streaming Picture of the Year. Streaming services have become the norm nowadays, and even though there are certainly some studios out there who have definitely put the focus more on, I should say, I don't know, more high-budgeted concepts, over $200 million projects, and actually good movies. I'm looking at you, Apple TV. There are definitely studios out there that are streaming services out there that do put out some good stuff. And the 6 movies that I have here are movies that I definitely think should definitely be considered as films that should be awarded their proper respects. So which one of the 6 nominated films here do I have here that deserves this award? Here are the nominees for Streaming Picture of the Year. Beverly Hills Cop Axel F for Netflix. Jennifer Lopez This Is Me Now for Amazon Prime Video. Jim Henson Idea Man for Disney Plus. Orion in the Dark for Netflix. Women of the Hour for Netflix. And Young Woman in the Sea, Disney Plus. And we actually have envelopes this time around, properly secured. I literally put the nominations in a week ago. So some of these I don't even remember what I actually picked out. But, of course, the winners of these awards coming up here will get this lovely, prestigious Reviewing Network award that I say that I'm going to send it out to people, but I've only got this one right here. But just consider it me giving it to you like this. There we go. But who wins the Streaming Picture of the Year award? And we're going to play another game here, too. How long until I get a paper cut from these envelopes? Because I only licked them, and I didn't put any tape on them, per se. But let's see how long it takes before I get a paper cut, because I'm sure it's going to happen here tonight. But anyway, the winner of Streaming Picture of the Year is... The winner is Orion and the Dark. And I picked this one in particular because Orion in the Dark was the DreamWorks animated movie which starred Paul Walter Hauser and Jacob Tremblay. Jacob Tremblay plays a kid who is scared of a lot of things, but he's especially afraid of the dark. And so the dark just basically decides, okay, kid, you think I'm scary? I'm going to take you on a journey throughout the nighttime sky to prove to you that there is nothing to worry about. This was one of DreamWorks' animated films that came out last year, in a year where they've had a lot of really good movies. And this was definitely one of their best films that sadly did not get the overall best attention. Probably my second favorite of the three films they did, with Kung Fu Panda 4 in third, and then The Wild Robot in first. And we don't mention Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate, but it was a really good movie, a really impressively made animated film that I really wish could have made it to theaters, but hey, you got to watch it at home for free, and I think a lot of people really missed out on something really good. So if you haven't seen Orion in the Dark, it's one I definitely recommend checking out. But congratulations to Orion in the Dark, Streaming Picture of the Year. You take this Reviewing Network award, and just pretend I'm giving it to you right now, and congratulations on the win. Next up, we have the award for Best Sequel, and 2024 was a mixed bag for sequels, but we did have a lot of good ones, but there were definitely a lot of sequels that were very unnecessary, rather pointless, and just did not need to exist per se. But the 7 films I have here are films that should be worthy of being considered some of the best sequels of the year, but which one was the best one overall? The nominees for Best Sequel this year are Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, Deadpool and Wolverine, Dune Part 2, Furious, A Mad Max Saga, Inside Out 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Kung Fu Panda 4. And the winner is... This one was already open, so... The winner is... The winner is Dune Part 2. Now, even though Inside Out 2 is one of my favorite movies of the year, very high up on my favorite movies of the year, Dune Part 2 was a film that I just got to give a lot of credit and a lot of respect for, you know, continuing the story from the original Dune film, and not only doing it well, but expanding on the story, making it seem like the sequel needed to be made, and they have definitely proven that there's a reason why this sequel needed to be made, with the scale being much more grand and epic, the story being much more grand and epic, the acting still top-notch. Timothée Chalamet is great in this. You know, Javier Bardem is really good in here with one of the lines of the year, you know, Mission Akin. Like, you know, that's just a lot of great action all across the board. And it just goes to show that Denis Villeneuve just is one of the best directors out there. And, hey, it was worth getting the sequel that we were thinking that we weren't going to get, because the first one wasn't as successful as it could have been. But, hey, I'm glad we got it. It made for a great film. Dune Part 2, my favorite sequel of the year. Even though I liked a lot of the other sequels this year, and I had some sequels higher up, Dune Part 2 was one of the ones I'd like to watch more. I've liked to watch more recently in the last couple of months, but it's definitely one of my favorite movies from last year, no question about it. So congratulations to Dune Part 2. Accept this Reviewing Network award on our behalf. Which brings us now to the Best Animated Feature category. Now, this year, the animated features this year were not as strong as they had been in the last couple of years, but nevertheless, there were still a lot of really good movies that came out this year, many of them that made my top 10 list, and definitely ones that should be mentioned in this particular category. The nominees for the Best Animated Picture of the year are Inside Out 2, Kung Fu Panda 4, Orion in the Dark, Piece by Piece, Transformers 1, and The Wild Robot. Those are the nominees, and the winner is Inside Out 2. Now, Inside Out 2 was my selection as my favorite film of the year, but like I said, it went back and forth between this and The Wild Robot as my favorite film of the year. And it was really tough to pick which one I thought was the best film overall. It goes back and forth, but Inside Out 2, I think, did a lot of things that a lot of people were not expecting, and did it very well. They expanded the story of these characters we first were introduced to it's now 10 years ago. They created a new world within their world that makes a whole lot of sense, and it was not afraid to be serious, to be more serious when it needed to be. There was a lot of great emotional moments from people that are not expected to be as emotional as you would think, but you know, you get to see Joy being angry, you get to see Angry being a little bit more remorseful, you know, being more, not just being a one-note character. These emotions have become more than just one-note characters. They have become characters that you really do get behind, and this film had a lot of great animation all across the board, and it had a really great ending that still holds up to this very day. A great representation of an anxiety attack, and you know, the new characters are a ton of fun. Maya Hawke as anxiety is a ton of fun. Just good fun film all across the board. Inside Out 2, my favorite animated film of the year. Again, a very close race between that and the Wild Robot, but it was definitely deserving of the Best Animated Picture award. So once again, Disney Pixar, congratulations on another achievement. You guys needed it, man. It's been a rough couple of years, but you did right with this one. So here you go. Inside Out 2, Best Animated Picture of the year. Which brings us now to the Best Screenplay of the year. A lot of good scripts this year. The nominees are: for Noir, Sean Baker; for If, John Krasinski; for Lisa Frankenstein, Diablo Cody; for Saturday Night, Gil Kenan and Jason Reitman; for The Substance, Coralie Farguet; and for The Wild Robot, Chris Sanders. Those are the nominees, and the winner is... The winners are Gil Kenan and Jason Reitman for Saturday Night. And I've selected Gil Kenan and Jason Reitman's script for Saturday Night in that very good list of films in that category. I selected them because they had a tough task of showing the audience what the first night of Saturday Night Live was like. The trouble of them getting the show on the air, being worried about getting canceled, and having to deal with this cast of newcomers who were relatively unknown and really had no real interpretation of how to do their jobs. And more importantly, they had to put together a show within the span of 90 minutes and the film does a very good job of creating this feel of what the process was like. Like, everything that happens felt like it actually happened on that night. And people from Saturday Night Live have gone on to say that the film did an excellent job of representing what happened that night on October 11th, 1975. There were the fears that NBC was going to shut them down before they had a chance to do anything. There was the fear of all these of the stars leaving the show and not coming back in time. There was the fear of this crash out that was going to happen. And the film does a very good job of showing what makes Saturday Night Live so special with that script. I mean, Jason Reitman has a knack for doing that with a lot of his movies. He's been a very reliable director ever since he first jumped onto the screen with Thank You for Smoking nearly 20 years ago. And it shows that he has matured as a director, and quite frankly, I really want to see what he does in the future, and I hope one day he is recommended, but he is represented at, the Academy Awards, and actually does receive an Oscar one day, because he is still one of the top directors out there that has a lot of good future ahead of him. And he and Gil Kenan did a great job with the script for Saturday Night, and it's one I have to recommend as the best screenplay of the year. So congratulations to Gil Kenan, and congratulations to Jason Reitman. So now we head into the acting categories, and the supporting actors category this year, the best supporting actors category, saw 6 performances that I felt this year were the strongest of the bunch. The 6 performances from the films that I have seen. I should mention that I have not seen a lot of the Oscar contenders. I have not seen The Brutalist yet. I've not yet to see Conclave. I haven't yet to see a lot of the bigger films that they have been nominated for the Academy Awards. But this is just going off of the films that I have seen and the performances I thought were so good, I couldn't help but give them the proper respects they deserve. So here we go. The nominees for Best Supporting Actress this year are Kaylee Fleming for If, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Maya Hawke for Inside Out 2, Margaret Qualley for The Substance, Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez, Rachel Sennott for Saturday Night. And the winner is... it's a tie. And the winners are Ariana Grande for Wicked and Margaret Qualley for The Substance. So I'll start with Ariana Grande in Wicked. It's hard not to imagine not going onto a television during the holiday season and not seeing that commercial on TV where, everyone's talking, they're talking about how her and Cynthia Erivo they were destined to play these roles. And ordinarily that could get out of hand pretty quickly, but the movie shows that, Ariana Grande was perfectly set to play the role of Glinda the Good Witch. I mean, she nailed that role. And this was a very tough role to perform in, because not only do you have to be good enough to play that performance as a whole and make it stand out on your own, but you've got to fill the shoes of such as a Kristen Chenoweth, who brilliantly played her well in the original Wicked Broadway musical, and especially with the songs in the movie. You've got 2 of the great singers out there, Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, both Grande and Cynthia Erivo really had a tough task ahead of them to make these performances work. And Ariana Grande, I thought, nailed it out of the park. The minute she did the minute I heard her sing the song "Popular," I just knew that, okay, we're in for a treat. I mean, it's a performance that you look at it and you listen to it, and she is not just doing Kristen Chenoweth all over again. She's embodying what this character should be, Glinda the Good Witch, and that's what she's doing in this performance. That's what she's doing with the songs in here. I mean, she's making this character her own. And the funny thing is that they were actually Stephen Schwartz, who wrote the songs for of course, Wicked, wanted to make Popular into a hip hop song for the movie, but Ariana Grande supposedly was the one who said no to that because she wanted to play Glinda as it was in the stage musical and not as Ariana Grande acting and playing as her, which is pretty obviously what you should do to distance yourself, because yeah, we know Ariana Grande is a great singer. I mean, there was a long time when I thought that she was somehow the younger incarnation of Mariah Carey, because I swear to God, she sounds like Mariah Carey when she sings sometimes, in a good way. Like it's amazing that the vocals that this woman has. She's definitely one of the best singers out there, and for a performance like this in this movie, she's great when she sings. She's really great when she's acting too. I mean, this is her first real big acting performance in here, and what a way to knock it out of the park. I mean, I know that probably Zoe Saldana is probably going to be more than likely the winner for the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for Emilia Perez. Why did I say it like that? Best Supporting Actress Oscar for Emilia Perez, which, as much as I hate Emilia Perez, I'll be the first to admit that Zoe Saldana really does deserve to win that award. And if she wins it, that's fine. I would love it if Ariana Grande wins it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But hey, she gave a great performance in this movie, Wicked. She's great as Glinda, the Good Witch. It's a great performance. But let's turn the attention over to Margaret Qualley for The Substance. Now, Margaret Qualley, this is a different story compared to Ariana Grande, because she was not nominated for Best Supporting Actress, which I think is a crime, because when you watch her in this movie, like, she really does a very good job playing a role where she has to play a younger version of Demi Moore's character in this movie. You know, Demi Moore, her basic plot of the basic plot of the film is that she plays a fading celebrity who, you know, she's being fired by her producer, Dennis Quaid, and so she uses a black market drug to create this younger version of herself, and it creates these unexpected side effects. So it's a body horror film that would make David Cronenberg proud, because yeah, they do a pretty good job of creating a lot of Cronenberg-esque magic in this film. And Margaret Qualley, I think, Demi Moore is getting a lot of the attention for the movie, and rightfully so. She's absolutely incredible in the film, but man, Margaret Qualley deserves a lot more deserves just as much attention, because she is really, really good. She's been a great actress for so many years now. I remember the first time I ever saw her or anything was in The Nice Guys, which I thought she was incredible in. And I know she was in The Leftovers, she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and she was in Poor Things as well. But this is easily the best performance she has given in a long is of her career so far. This is a terrific film where she really fits the role here very well. And one scene in particular that I want you to pay close attention to is the scene that's out there online where they're showing the clip of her, Demi Moore's character now as this younger woman, and just watch the way that this scene is shot right. So much in that scene just makes this performance so worth it, because you see early on Demi Moore's character doing the exact same thing, all the same type of things, but nobody's really paying attention to that except the fact that this is the same person, but now in a much younger body. And I just love that. I just love the way that you have to listen closely to the scenes in particular as they play out, because the line at the beginning where she's just like, "In the meantime, take care of yourself." It's a complete opposite of what she's doing to herself, because she's taking these unhealthy drugs to stay young and healthy, young and popular, but it's really destroying her inside. And it just really is such a pivotal part of why this performance works, because it's two different people doing exactly the same thing, but Margaret Qualley makes it stand out so well on her own in this particular segment here in this movie. And I love that last shot of the scene there, where, you know, it's literally looking like something out of The Shining. Like, you could tell that the cinematographer for this, Benjamin Kraken, you know, you could tell that he and this director Corley Fargett, like, they really love the visual style of something like The Shining, because that's something that's literally taken out of The Shining. As again, a complete parallel to Demi Moore's character, because earlier in the movie you see all these posters with Demi Moore's face on them, but now that this woman, now she's starting anew, it starts off with this new one poster alone in this gigantic red room as she's walking away, and just the way the floor moves and all that, just such a great performance all across the board. It's just a really good performance that sadly the Academy overlooked as one of the best performances of the year. I feel like it could have been easily put into the nominations for the best supporting actress, but that's why I selected both Margaret Qualley and Ariana Grande. So yeah, if I had two of these, I would give both of them to you. So congratulations to Ariana Grande and Margaret Qualley for your acceptance of the Best Supporting Actress awards. So with that said, let us go ahead and move on to the Best Supporting Actor category. Now, this year there wasn't a whole lot of strong Best Supporting Actor performances, especially at the Academy Awards, but these 6 that I have here are performances that I really thought were very good. They weren't pivotal performances in terms of, like, in comparison to the leading roles, but they left their mark so much that they deserve to be mentioned here. And here are those nominees for Best Supporting Actor: Josh O'Connor for Challengers, Mike Face for Challengers, Louis Gossett Jr. for If, Chris Hemsworth for Transformers 1, Cooper Hoffman for Saturday Night, and Ryan Reynolds for If. And the winner is Cooper Hoffman for Saturday Night, who was really great playing Dick Ebersol, and one scene in the movie I think really cemented him as the best supporting actor, as having one of the best performances in the movie. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've seen Saturday Night, and if you haven't seen it, this is definitely the reason why you need to check this movie out, because the performances are so good in this movie. And Cooper Hoffman, who is of course the son from not Paul Thomas Anderson, Philip Seymour Hoffman, even though his first leading role was in Licorice Pizza, where he's really good, but here, this is the best performance I've seen him in a long time. It's one scene in the movie where, you know, as I said before with Saturday Night, the whole thing is about, you know, the 90 minutes leading up to the premiere of Saturday Night on NBC, and how NBC was willing to shut it down because it looked like nobody was ready to go, nobody was really prepared for anything. And there's one pivotal scene in the staircase of the stage that the Saturday Night is in, where, you know, Cooper Hoffman just has to have this one moment where he has to just tell Lorne Michaels, hey, maybe we should just run the dress rehearsal. And he has this, and Lorne Michaels is so confident that this show has to go on at 11:30 that he didn't even bother taping the dress rehearsal. And it just leads into this performance where, if you listen really closely, there's one point in this performance that I want you to listen to here, where you can just tell his father was coming out when he was doing this performance. Watch this.
Lorne. I was thinking, why don't we punt? Come back stronger next week. Debut with Paul Simon.
That's what you've been thinking?
Listen, no one wants this show to succeed more than I do.
Is that so?
Yeah, I hired you, Lorne. I take it up the ass from this network every day because I believe in this show. And I'm telling you, we should run the dress rehearsal and claw back a win next Saturday. It's in everyone's best interest, mainly yours.
Sorry, was that a threat?
No, what? No. Lorne, all I'm trying to do is give you advice.
25 minutes. Thanks for the advice, but we can't, Dick. It's a live show.
No one's gonna know the difference.
We just can't.
Lorne, you need to start adjusting your concept of what you can and cannot do.
We can't because there is no tape. I didn't record the dress rehearsal. So we don't have to argue about it.
You didn't what?
We just have to make it to air.
Lorne, I'm not gonna be able to protect you.
I'm used to that.
Oh, screw you. Do you know how much bullshit never makes it to your ears? Because I'm the wall they hit?
Tell that to your Polaroid rep. She's cute.
I'm sorry. You need a sponsor for a show that can't pull a single advertiser. You know they're giving out the ads for free.
NBC is lucky to have something as relevant as this show.
Lorne, they don't even want it.
That's logical, Dick. That's why they're paying us all to be here.
They want you to fail.
This is a 20-year-old actor who, at the time they were making this movie, Well, technically he was 21 because I think they were shooting this in 24, but this is a 21-year-old actor. And you can just tell in that performance, especially at the end there, how he's just channeling his father. And it is such a pitch perfect, uncanny mannerisms right there. It's just such a dominant performance in this film. It's a performance that doesn't get talked about a lot because the film was not a big hit at the box office, which is a shame because it's such a good movie. And the reason why it works is because all the actors in that movie really give it their all. It's a strong movie. It's a great performance by Cooper Hoffman, and that performance right there was just more than enough for me to give him the award because, when I think of Philip Seymour Hoffman, the first thing I always think about is that great scene in Charlie Wilson's War. The first scene we see him in where he's in that argument with John Slattery, and, what an introduction to his character in that movie where, he commands the screen whenever he is in that scene. Like, you could tell he is 100% game for whatever they want him to do, and he just elevates it to another level. It's one of my favorite performances from him, and he's done a lot of great works in his career, and that's definitely one of my favorite ones. His son is off to a great track record. If he becomes the actor that I think he becomes, he's going to win an Oscar by the time the decade is over because somebody's going to give him a chance to really show what he can do in a big role. He's already had it with Licorice Pizza. He proves it again with Saturday Night. So I have no repercussions whatsoever to giving Cooper Hoffman this award. So congratulations to Cooper Hoffman. This is yours. You earned it for Best Supporting Actor. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the Best Actress category. A very tough category to say the least. Not just at the Oscars, but this list here. I put together a pretty good list of actresses in a year where actresses had a very good year for filmmaking. But the question is, who ends up taking the award? Is there really one winner here? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's take a look at the Best Actress nominees this year. Emily Blunt for The Fall Guy. Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Demi Moore for The Substance, Anna Kendrick for Women of the Hour, Mikey Madsen for Honora, Lupita Nyong'o for The Wild Robot, Anya Taylor-Joy for Furioso: A Mad Max Saga, and Zendaya for Challengers. And the winner is... it's rolled up, so you know what that means. Probably. It is a tie, and not just a two-way tie, but a three-way tie. The winners are Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Mikey Madsen for Honora. As I said, this was a very tough category for me to choose from, and I thought all the performances in here were more than worthy of this award, but let's start off with the first name on the list here, Cynthia Erivo. Cynthia Erivo has been one of those great actresses that not only can act, but also can sing really well. She, of course, did a lot of Broadway work and theater work. She was in The Color Purple that eventually led into the musical that came out a couple years ago. But as a film actress, she's really evolved into making these movies where she is very rarely missed a beat. Even in bad movies, like Pinocchio, where she plays the Blue Fairy. She's definitely one of the stronger things about that movie. She was great in Widows, her film that really broke her out into... the national public spotlight. She was also great in the criminally underrated Bad Times at the El Royale. She was great as Harriet Tubman and Harriet. This year, of course, she's in Wicked, where she really commands the screen as Elphaba. Like, you have to create a character that it has to be made with one of the most notorious movie villains of all time, the Wicked Witch of the West. And Wicked does a very good job of creating a story where you do buy into how Elphaba can become was originally a good person, and a person that had a lot of promise in her future ahead of her before unfortunate circumstances forced her to become the Wicked Witch of the West. And the film does a very good job of creating this character, and it helps that Cynthia Erivo is just so game for the role. As we said before, it really did feel like these two were meant to play these characters, and she's not playing it in the same way that Idina Menzel plays her in the Broadway musical. It's a refreshing performance. It's a different performance than you would expect, and again, you got somebody who can sing better than anybody else, and just really puts it together for a really strong performance overall in this movie that just works to every single level here. And it really is such a strong performance in this film that I have to give its proper credit for and its proper recommendations for. But so that's my thoughts on Cynthia Erivo. That's why I gave her 1/3 of this award. But let's go ahead and move on to Demi Moore. Now, Demi Moore has been a terrific actress all throughout her career. I mean, it began back in the 1980s when she was part of the Brat Pack, being in stuff like St. Elmo's Fire, About Last Night, and then eventually moving on to bigger movie roles such as in The Seventh Sign, and especially with Ghost, and then had those really good box office successes with A Few Good Men, Indecent Proposal, and Disclosure. There was a little bit of a downward turn in the late 90s with starring in infamous stuff like Striptease, The Juror, The Scarlet Letter. Even though I really like G.I. Jane, it was not a financial success overall. And there was a little bit of time when she was really, kind of jumbling around from being the top actress that she was in the early part of her career to being in more sporadic roles in particular. Like, she'd be in stuff like Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, playing the villain in that. But then she would do stuff like Bobby, the Emilio Estevez movie about the death of Bobby Kennedy. And Mr. Brooks comes to mind. She was in shows like Empire. She was just in Feud, Capote versus the Swans, even though she was very rarely she wasn't in there a whole lot. She was one of the main characters that gets killed off early on. She was really good in that show, and I feel like that deserves a lot more attention. But this performance in The Substance really is one of her strongest performances. It shows that this woman still has it. Like, she's still got what it takes. And it really isn't really because of her acting as a whole. Like, she is, in terms of, reading lines and all that. That's in there, too, and that's fine and all that. But the one scene in particular that really sold this movie to me, and I think a lot of people, was one 30-second scene where it's nothing but her just using expressions to talk about how to feel, to show how she feels about the situation that she's put herself in. And just the way it's presented and the way it's shot is just so well done. I mean, that works because it's not just a scene where, it's just somebody just losing it for the sake of losing it, for just the sake of getting an award and all that. No, that is something that I think a lot of people can relate to, when the stress and the trials and tribulations of what you're going through in your life just gets to you to a point where you just have to, you're just about to lose it. And that performance right there is such a tragically put together scene. Somebody put it best when I saw the comments for this, and I'll just read it off of them because I think they did a pretty good job of summing it up better than I could. And it said, and as it says here, this was by far the scariest and most heartbreaking scene in the movie. Seriously, aside from all the body horror and grotesque scenes that didn't make me feel all that much, but this one scene is just so real and emotionally raw, truly a psychological horror in its purest form. Even as a man, I can relate to her dissatisfaction. The one time you really want to put yourself out there, but there's something about your appearance that you just can't be satisfied with, which prevents you from going out and living your life. A pimple or a hair out of place just doesn't subside. A piece of clothing you'd wear that doesn't suit you anymore, so you keep changing and changing, but no matter what you do, you cannot be satisfied. It cannot help but feel ugly. It's too real and horrifying. And that is absolutely true, because I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, you have something that you just don't know it's there, and you just try everything you can to get rid of it. And when you can, and you spend so much time trying to get rid of it, it doesn't work. And it just leads you to a situation like this. It's such a well-done scene. This is what you should do with horror films. Like this, with a horror concept. Like, you don't just have to do simple jump scares. Like, jump scares can be good if you do it the right way and not just doing it for the sake of doing it. You don't have to have this dialogue that we've seen done to death before so many times. This feels like a real horror film, especially for insecure people, and I think it does a very good job of handling that very well in just that one shot alone, but the rest of the performance is so damn good. Like, this is a terrific, terrific film that definitely, I was very happy to see before I made these nominations, because, yeah, this is a performance that definitely deserves to be one that Demi Moore should win for, not just here, but at the Oscars. I hope she wins it for the Oscars overall, but like I said, it's a very tough race this year, which is why there were 3 winners. And let's talk about that last winner I have here, and that is the youngest star of the group here, and that is Mikey Madison. So Honora is another one of those movies I'm so glad I got to see before I put the nominations out there, because I had heard the buzz on this was so good. And this is currently the front runner right now for Best Picture, which, if that's the case, I'd be more than happy to see this win, because I really enjoyed this film so much. If you don't know the story of Honora, it follows this beleaguered marriage between Honora, who is a sex worker, played by Mikey Madison, and this son of a Russian oligarch, played by Mark Edovstian. I think if I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm sorry, but yeah, this was a really good film that really is focusing its really good stuff on the performance of Mikey Madison, who, she's a 23-year-old stripper living in Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, and this performance she gives in this movie is a star-making performance. I mean, she is a delight to watch on here. Not only is she really good, she's really good as an actress. She's a beautiful-looking woman, and she really does stand out in this movie. She creates a character that you do get behind, and you want to see. You do want to see her get a better life out of this and get something out of this relationship that she's in with this guy. And she wants to do her own thing. She wants to do her own thing at the same time. And I think it works very well in her performance as a whole. So her performance in this film is just so well done. And I just love the way that she commands the screen whenever she's on screen. This actress, Mikey Madison, who started off her career in Better Things, the Pamela Adlon show that was on FX a couple years ago, which I thought was pretty good. But here she gets a chance to shine here in this movie, and the performance, I think, really speaks for itself.
Мой сын ни перед кем здесь извиняться не будет. Понятно?
Конечно, не будет.
Because your son is a fucking pussy.
What?
What? What? What?
And-
Did you not hear what I said? I said it's because your son's a fucking pussy.
Все, пошли.
And you are discussing hooker.
And your son hates you so much he married one to piss you off.
Listen,
Like, you're getting burned when the father of the guy you're divorcing is laughing at her by doing that. Like, that's a great scene that just shows that how good Mikey Madison can really be in this performance. That accent of hers is just so well done. And the dancing scenes in this movie that she's in are very, very good and very elaborately put together. I mean, this is a really good performance overall. Like I said, this was one of the toughest years to pick a strong performance out of this group of people here. And I think the three best ones are her, Demi Moore, and Cynthia Erivo. So that's why I selected all three of them, man, because it was just too hard for me to choose which one I thought was the best one, because I thought all three of them worked so good. So congratulations to Cynthia Erivo, Demi Moore, and Mikey Madison. You get the Reviewing Network Award for Best Actress this year. So let's see if the Best Actor category is any different. Is it the same type of thing this year with the actresses? Or are there just so many good performances that it's going to be hard for me to choose one? Well, there's only one way to find out. The nominees for Best Actor are Ryan Gosling for The Fall Guy, Brian Tyree Henry for Transformers 1, Hugh Jackman for Deadpool and Wolverine, Gabriel LaBelle for Saturday Night, Dev Patel for Monkey Man, Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool and Wolverine, and Ryland Brixton Cold Twos for Hundreds of Beavers. And the winner is Brian Tyree Henry for Transformers 1. Now again, a very good category overall. Maybe not as strong as the Best Actress category, but of the performances that I saw this year that I thought really worked in the leading role, there were a lot of good ones. Like Hugh Jackman really did everything he could to make his role of Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine stand out very well. There's a lot of good scenes with him in that movie, but if I had to pick the one performance by an actor this year that really impressed the hell out of me, it has to be Brian Tyree Henry playing the Transformer that would eventually become known as Megatron in Transformers 1. Now, Brian Tyree Henry has always been one of our great underrated actors. He's been great as Miles Morales' father in the Spider-Man movies. He's been in a ton of other movies. He's been nominated for Oscars for performances where he's been really good. And as D16 in this movie, I mean, it's a character that should not be this hard and complex to put together and to go all out on. But man, Brian Tyree Henry makes this character his own, because throughout the course of Transformers 1, you find out that the thing that him and Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime believed in, or Ryan Pax, I should say, he'll eventually become Optimus Prime, but the world that they believe in is a complete and utter lie. And you see two different sides of how they take this matter. Chris Hemsworth's character, Orion Pax, he is just as upset as Megatron, as D16 is. I keep saying that, but I keep saying the different names of these people that they eventually become. But you see that he's just as upset as D16. But instead of what D16 does, Orion Pax is more optimistic about the future, about what he could do to change this whole thing around, like change the way that the people on Cybertron, the robots on Cybertron can be, because he rallies them up at the end of the movie. But then you have D16, who, when he first hears about this, is just devastated, because he has lived his whole life living under the power, the truth, the belief that Sentinel Prime is their king, their Lord and Savior. But when you find out that he's as corrupt person that just did everything he could for power and glory, and you just see and that's when the performance of Brian Tyree Henry really begins to shine, because that character that we see at the beginning of the movie for D16, it evaporates slowly but surely. Like, you see, as the film goes on, you see those little brief flashes of that guy that Orion Pax called his friend. But as the film goes on, and D16 is getting more aggravated and more peeved about how he was betrayed by Sentinel Prime, it just elevates him to this level where he's so turning into the character that we know is going to be Megatron. And then comes that pivotal moment at the end of the movie when, Orion Pax is about to fall off this thing, and D16 is trying to help him up, and then there's still that little bit of him still in there before he eventually turns to the robot that we know him to be, that robot that we knew him beforehand. But then, as the film goes on and he starts to put together everything that has been building up to this point, a moment like this happens.
He deserves to die. Can't you see that? We're better than this. Don't be like Sentinel. Pax, you need to move out of my way before I move you myself. D, listen. No. Why? Why did you do that? Why? D. No. I'm done saving you.
Just that performance alone, that last line right there where you just see the final seconds of the D16 that Orion Pax knew so much, and then it's Megatron from this point going forward, him going like, I'm done saving you, and just lets him go. Like, it's such a great moment because, yeah, D16 catches him, but it's Megatron that lets him go. Like, that's the point where it's just like, enough is enough. And so now we finally have Megatron as he is. And of course, later on in that scene, Orion Pax becomes Optimus Prime, and it leads to a battle between the two of them. But that performance right there is just so good. I mean, such a terrific performance in that movie. And it just goes to show you how great of an actor Brian Tyree Henry is. I mean, this guy knocks it out of the park nearly every time. And in this movie, where he didn't really need to go all in, he went all in, and it just works so well. It also helps that you have the director of Toy Story 4, Josh Cooley, who works with Disney and Pixar. He makes great emotional moments. He made great emotional moments in that movie. That's a great moment in that film. It doesn't feel like a cringy moment. It doesn't feel over the top. It doesn't feel like something that's supposed to be in there and is usually going to be lackluster or terrible. It feels like an earnest, strongly put together scene, and it just works so well. And that, to me, was one of the reasons why I so hooked to that performance so much. I thought he was so well done in that film, and that's a performance that just made me say, okay, that's a guy that deserves recognition. If the Academy Awards isn't going to give him anything to it, I'm giving it to him for Best Actor, because he is one of the leads in the movie. Him and Chris Hemsworth. I think of him and Chris Hemsworth as sort of the leads in that movie, even though I have him at Best Supporting Actor for Chris Hemsworth. But it's really Megatron. It's really Brian Tyree Henry's movie, where he just takes over and just dominates that film overall. And yeah, it's just a performance that I have to give the award to. I thought that was such a great performance by him. One of our great actors, Brian Tyree Henry. You get this for the award for Best Actor for your great performance in Transformers 1. You've been a great actor all the way through, every time I see you, but that's one of your strongest performances yet. So congratulations to Brian Tyree Henry. So let's move on now to Best Director. And a year where you had a number of different movies with a number of different styles, a number of different directions of where they could go. This was another very tough one to choose from here. So the nominees for Best Director, they are Sean Baker for Honora, Mike Cheslick for Hundreds of Beavers, Luca Guadagnino for Challengers, John Krasinski for If, Jason Reitman for Saturday Night, Chris Sanders for The Wild Robot, and Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. And the winner is The winner is Mike Cheslick for Hundreds of Beavers. Threw a little curveball at you. Because, yeah, we talked about Hundreds of Beavers before in other videos and in my top 10 list. But I haven't talked about what this director did with Hundreds of Beavers that I think is so unique and so incredibly well done. As I was watching it again just recently. Give me 1 second here. This is a film that was produced on a very low budget. But it definitely shows at times. At the other times, though, it's definitely a film that you could tell they put that money to good use, because there are scenes in this movie that are so well done and don't feel like they're cheap in any way, shape, or form. Like, this film is a great collaboration of a cheaply made movie, but a film that has a lot of high ambitions and decides to use that money to good use, because there are great action sequences in here that you could tell they took a lot of inspiration from stuff like John Wick and, you know, modern day action movies as a whole. But the film works because it's a great homage to classic slapstick comedy. I'm talking about stuff like, you know, Abbott and Costello, the Looney Tunes, the Three Stooges, Charlie Chaplin. It's all throughout this movie, and it's just so well done. And this director did such a great job of combining the cheap aspects of what this film could be like with more of the films of a moderate budget overall. This had a more higher budget, like something on the lines of a Blumhouse production. Like, the money is definitely there, and then there are times when it feels like the money was much more than they're letting on here. It's just so well done. It's such a hilariously funny film. A film that can look cheap in some aspects, but look impressive at the other end. And just the fact that he did this on $150,000 of a budget, I mean, this is top tier work here, man. I mean, yeah, all the other directors here did a very good job with the money that they had to work with here. They made great films, but for a guy like him to do this with the cheap money, with the littlest money that he had, he made a comedy classic that's going to be talked about for years to come, and definitely is going to be a contender for one of the best films of the decade, no question about it, and one of the best comedies of recent memory. So congratulations to Mike Cheslick. You guys did a wonderful job on Hundreds of Beavers. You definitely deserve this award. So before we get to the Best Picture Award, it is now time for the Reviewing Network Achievement Award. And this year, we have 2 selections this year. I wanted to do 2 this time around because the last 2 years we've done it, we've had Steven Spielberg, who took the first one back in 2023, and Denzel Washington last year. This year, I wanted to do 2. I wanted to do a female actress this time, an actress this time around, but I also wanted to give proper respects to an entertainer that I consider to be the greatest entertainer of all time. But as I was putting this together, I realized that I had already done kind of a movie in its own length about the history of Conan O'Brien as a whole. So Conan O'Brien is still going to get represented here on the Achievement Award, but I'm only going to take a little bit of the footage that I have from the segment I did during the 70 Years of the Tonight Show for this particular segment here. So to start off the first of the 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards for this year's Reviewing Network Award, let's take a look at the career of Conan O'Brien, an abridged version of what I did back in November. Conan Christopher O'Brien was born on April 18, 1963 in Brookline, Massachusetts. His father, Thomas Francis, is a physician and professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School, where he specialized in epidemiology. His mother, Ruth, is a retired attorney and former partner at the Boston firm Ropes & Gray. O'Brien has 3 brothers and 2 sisters. O'Brien attended Brookline High School, where he served as the managing editor of the school newspaper, then called the Sagamore. He was a congressional intern for Congressman Robert Drinan and Barney Frank, and in his senior year won the National Council of Teachers of English writing contest with the short story To Bury the Living. After graduating as valedictorian in 1981, O'Brien entered Harvard University. He lived in Holworthy Hall during his first year with future businessman Louis Zubinas and 2 other roommates, and in Mather House during his 3 upper-class years. He majored in history and literature and graduated magna cum laude with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in 1985. O'Brien's senior thesis, entitled Literary Progeria in the Works of William Faulkner and Flannery O'Connor, concerned the use of children as symbols in the roles of William Faulkner and Flannery O'Connor. During college, O'Brien briefly played drums in a band called the Bad Clams and was a writer for the Harvard Lampoon Humor magazine. During his sophomore and junior years, he served as the Lampoon's president, and at the time, O'Brien's future boss on NBC, Jeff Zucker, was serving as the president of the school newspaper, the Harvard Crimson. After graduating from Harvard, O'Brien moved to Los Angeles to join the writing staff of HBO's sketch comedy series Not Necessarily the News, where he worked for 2 seasons. Around this time, he started taking improvisation classes with Cynthia Sigeti and the Groundlings. His next job as a writer was on the short-lived The Wilton North Report. In January of 1988, Saturday Night Live executive producer Lorne Michaels hired O'Brien as a writer. During his 3 years on Saturday Night Live, he wrote such recurring sketches as Mr. Short-Term Memory and The Girl Watchers. The latter was first performed by Tom Hanks and John Lovitz. While on a writer's strike from SNL following the 1987-88 season, O'Brien put on an improvisational comedy review in Chicago with fellow SNL writers Bob Odenkirk and Rob Smigel called Happy Happy Good Show. While living in Chicago, O'Brien briefly shared an apartment with Jeff Garlin near Wrigley Field, and in 1989, O'Brien and his fellow SNL writers received an Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing for a Variety Series. O'Brien, like many SNL writers, occasionally appeared as extras in sketches. His most notable appearance was as a doorman in a sketch in which Tom Hanks was introduced into the SNL Five Timers Club for hosting his 5th episode in 1990. O'Brien and Robert Smigel wrote the television pilot for Look Well starring Adam West, which aired on NBC in 1991. Even with support from NBC president Brandon Tartikoff, the pilot never went to series. Despite the negative reviews, it became a cult hit. In 1991, after the failure of his sitcom, O'Brien also had an engagement to be married fall through, and he quit Saturday Night Live, citing burnout. Mike Reiss and Al Jean, then showrunners on The Simpsons, called O'Brien and offered him a job. The series was prestigious in the writing community at the time. O'Brien recalls everyone wanted to be on that show, but they never hired. O'Brien was one of the first hires after the show's original crew, and with the help of an old Groundlings friend, actress Lisa Kudrow, O'Brien purchased an apartment in Beverly Hills. He and Kudrow became romantically involved as well, and Kudrow believed that he should begin performing rather than writing. O'Brien disagreed, feeling that Kudrow was flattering him, and asserting he was happy as a writer. From 1991 to 1993, O'Brien was a writer and producer for The Simpsons. When O'Brien first arrived at the Fox lot, they temporarily gave him writer Jeff Martin's office. O'Brien was nervous and self-conscious, feeling that he would embarrass himself in front of what he regarded as an intimidating collector of writers. O'Brien would pitch characters in the voices, and he thought that was the norm until Reese informed him no one does this. He fit in quickly, commanding control of the room frequently. O'Brien wrote some of the show's most acclaimed episodes, Marge vs. the Monorail and Homer Goes to College. The show was initially a higher realistic family sitcom after O'Brien's debut. The show took a rapid shift in the direction of the surreal. O'Brien also had sole writing credits on New Kids on the Block and Treehouse of Horror 4, on which he wrote the episode Wraparounds. Wally Wolodarski described a room character Conan put on for the writers. Conan used to do this thing called the nervous writer that involved him opening a can of Diet Coke and then nervously pitching a joke. He would spray Diet Coke all over himself, and that was always a source of endless amusement among us. During his time at The Simpsons, O'Brien also had a side project working with Smigel on the script for a musical film based off the Hans and Franz sketch from SNL, but the film was never produced. Meanwhile, David Letterman was preparing to leave NBC's Late Night, prompting executive producer Lorne Michaels to search for a new host. Michaels approached O'Brien to produce, then agent Gavin Polone said that O'Brien wanted to perform rather than produce. He arranged with Michaels that O'Brien would do a test audition on the stage of The Tonight Show. Jason Alexander and Mimi Rogers were the guests, and the audience was composed of Simpsons writers. The performance was beamed by satellite to NBC, where Lorne Michaels and NBC executives watched.
I like how models do that all the time, because it is physically very hard work.
It's not that bad.
You've done a lot, okay.
I've done a lot of catalog stuff, mostly.
See, it is hard work, long hours.
No, it seems, like it would be hard. No, it doesn't. People always say it's tough to be like a model. No, like turning a big crank is tough.
I'm not talking about
that. It is. First of all, again, thank you for coming.
How could I miss an opportunity like this?
No. It's not often you get to share camera time with me.
There you go.
That's the end of my mock show. If that's all I ever get, it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. Thank you very much. Good night.
The audition was not well received by media commentators, citing his awkward humor. O'Brien was picked up as the new host on April 26, 1993.
Oh, Dave Letterman is a legend here at NBC, and if there's anything that's fun to do, it's replacing legends at NBC.
If I had to pick the best Tonight Show host of all time, it would be Carson, but O'Brien would have been a close second. And I think if he had been given an opportunity to watch his time on The Tonight Show grow, he probably would have surpassed Carson as the greatest Tonight Show host of all time. But for now, I would not only consider him the second best Tonight Show host of all time, but quite possibly the greatest late night host of all time. And honestly, one of the greatest entertainers of all time, period. Conan O'Brien's career was filled with so much backlash, dread, and fears of failure, even all the way back to the beginning of his career and his late night tenure as well. That dread of getting axed every week in your first year had to be incredibly stressful on O'Brien and his crew, but they pulled through and made Late Night with Conan O'Brien the hot late night show for that 15-year period between 1994 and 2009, and again at The Tonight Show. That tenure was filled with so much potential of taking The Tonight Show to the next level, but because NBC and Jay Leno got the upper hand, most thought Conan was doomed to fail elsewhere, and especially at TBS. But he did everything but that. Conan's TBS show not only was still just as funny as it was before, but TBS gave Conan more creative control to do whatever he wanted to do because it was on basic cable, which is more than probably what he would have gotten on Fox had he accepted those offers beforehand. Not only did Conan continue to prove he still had what it takes late into his tenure as a talk show host, but his ability to take the show outside of its format with the Without Borders show, his podcast Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and his recent Max show Conan O'Brien Must Go, proves that O'Brien still has got it even after leaving the late night desk, and will be remembered as I said before, one of the greatest entertainers in history. So congratulations to Conan O'Brien. Welcome to the annals of the great ones, actors and entertainers in Hollywood. In that category, in the Reviewing Network Achievement Award, this is for you. So congratulations to Conan O'Brien. But now let's get to the actress that I wanted to put the focus on for this particular show. She's an actress who started her work off in television in light, fluffy roles, but eventually went on to become one of the best actresses we've had, winner of 2 Academy Awards and a wider range of different movies. She's a humanitarian. She's somebody who believes in a lot of causes. She's been somebody who has worked in movies, television, and Broadway. She's been all across the board, and she's somebody that I find a really lot of great admiration for. The second recipient of this year's Reviewing Network Achievement Award. Let's talk about Sally Field. Sally Field was born on November 6, 1946 in Pasadena, California, to actress Margaret Field and pharmacist Richard Dryden Field, who served in the Army during World War II. As a teen, Field attended Portola Middle School and Birmingham High School in Van Nuys, where she was a cheerleader. Her class of 1964 classmates included financier Michael Milken and talent agent Michael Ovitz, while actress Cindy Williams was a year behind Field. In 1965, Field got her start on television as the boy-crazy surfer girl in the series Gidget, which ran only one season from 1965 to 1966. However, summer reruns gained respectable ratings, making the show a belated success, and wanting to find a new starring vehicle for Field, ABC next produced The Flying Nun, with Field cast as Sister Bertrilli for 3 seasons from 1967 to 1970. In an interview included in the Season 1 DVD release, Field stated that though she thoroughly enjoyed Gidget, but hated The Flying Nun because she was not treated with respect by the show's directors. Field was then typecasted after this, finding respectable roles difficult to obtain. In 1971, she starred in the television film Maybe I'll Come Home in the Spring, playing a discouraged teen runaway who returns home with a bearded, drug-abused hippie played by David Carradine. She made several guest TV appearances through the mid-1970s, including a role in the western Alias Smith and Jones and an episode of the TV series Night Gallery. In 1973, she was cast in a starring role opposite John Davidson in the series The Girl with Something Extra, which ran for 1 season from 73 to 74. Following the series cancellation, she studied at the Actors Studio with acting teacher Lee Strasberg. Strasberg became a mentor to Field, helping her move past her television image of the girl next door. During this period, after studying with Strasberg, she landed the title role in the 1976 TV film Sybil, based off the book by Flora Retta Schreiber. Her dramatic portrayal of a young woman afflicted with dissociative identity disorder earned her an Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Special Program in 1977, and enabled her to break through the typecasting of her sitcom work. In 1977, she was co-starring alongside Burt Reynolds, Jackie Gleason, and Jerry Reed in the year's second highest-grossing film, Smokey and the Bandit. 2 years later, she would play the titular union organizer in Norma Ray, a film that established her as a dramatic actress. For her role, she won the Best Female Performance Prize at the Cannes Film Festival, and would later win the first of 2 Oscars for Best Actress at the Academy Awards. Fields would appear in 3 more films with Burt Reynolds, The End, Hooper, and Smokey and the Bandit 2. And in 1981, she continued to change her image, playing a foul-mouthed prostitute opposite Tommy Lee Jones in the South Set film Backroads. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for the 1981 drama Absence and Malice and the 1982 comedy Kiss Me Goodbye. In the 1984 drama Places in the Heart, she starred as Edna Spaulding, a farm widow struggling to weather the Great Depression. She won her second Golden Globe and second Oscar. Fields' acceptances had since been both admired as earnest and parodied as excessive. Manning alive, and I cannot deny the fact that you like me right now. You like me. Applause. Thank you. Field later parodied herself when she delivered the line often misquoted as, "You like me, you really like me," in a Charles Schwab commercial. In 1985, she co-starred with James Garner in the romantic comedy Murphy's Romance. The following year, Field appeared on the cover of the March 1986 issue of Playboy magazine, in which she was the interview subject. She did not appear as a pictorial subject in the magazine, although she did wear the classic leotard and bunny ears outfit on the cover. That year, she won the Woman in Film Crystal Award. For a role as matriarch M. Lynn in the Field Steel Magnolia, she was nominated for a 1990 Golden Globe Award for Best Actress. In the early 1990s, Field had supporting roles in a number of films. Those included Disney's live-action Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey, where she voiced the role of Sassy, and in that same year, she starred as the wife of Robin Williams' character and the love interest of Pierce Brosnan's character in Mrs. Doubtfire. She would then go on to play Tom Hanks' mother in Forrest Gump, even though she was only 10 years older than Hanks, with whom she had co-starred 6 years earlier in Punchline. For Forrest Gump, she received BAFTA and SAG nominations. Field's other 1990s films included Not Without My Daughter, a controversial thriller based off the real-life experience of Betty Modi's escape from Iran with her daughter Matab, and Soap Ditch, a comedy in which she was playing a pampered soap opera star and was joined by a cast that included Kevin Kline, Whoopi Goldberg, Kathy Moriarty, Elizabeth Shue, and Robert Downey Jr. In 1996, she would reprise the role of Sassy in Homeward Bound 2, Lost in San Francisco, and later that year, she would receive the Berlinati Camera Award at the 46th Annual Berlin International Film Festival for a role as a grieving vigilante mother in John Schlesinger's Eye for an Eye. In 1997, Field would guest star on an episode of King of the Hill in which she would voice a religious woman, Junie Harper, who contends with Hank Hill to ban Halloween. She would later co-star with Natalie Portman in Where the Heart Is and appear opposite Reese Witherspoon in Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde. Field had a recurring role on ER in 2000 as Dr. Abby Lockhart's mother, Maggie, who suffers from bipolar disorder, a role for which she won an Emmy Award in 2001. After a critically acclaimed stint on the series, she returned to the role in 2003 and 2006, and even starred in the short-lived series The Court in 2002. Field's directing career began with the television film The Christmas Tree in 1996. She would also direct an episode of the original TV miniseries From the Earth to the Moon in 1998, also playing a minor role as the wife of astronaut Gordon Cooper, Trudy. She would make her feature directorial debut with the film Beautiful in 2000. She was a late addition to the ABC drama series Brothers and Sisters, which debuted in September 2006. In the pilot, the role of matriarch Nora Walker was played by Betty Buckley. However, the show's producers decided to take the character into another direction and offered the part to Field, who would later win the 2007 Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series. The series also starred Callista Flockhart and Rachel Griffiths as Nora's adult daughters. She would later appear on an episode of The Doctors to talk about osteoporosis and her Rally with Sally Foundation. She would follow it up playing Aunt May in the Marvel Comics films The Amazing Spider-Man and its sequel in 2014. Her widely praised portrayal of Mary Todd Lincoln in Steven Spielberg's Lincoln also brought her Best Supporting Actress Award nominations at the Oscars, Golden Globes, BAFTA, Screen Actors Guild, and Critics' Choice Awards. On May 5, 2014, Field received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for her contributions to motion pictures. Her star is located in front of the Hollywood Wax Museum, and in January 2015, it was announced that she would co-host Turner Classic Movies. The very same year, she would portray the titular character in Hello, My Name is Doris, for which she was nominated for the Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Actress in a Comedy. Field reprised her role as Amanda Wingfield in The Glass Menagerie on Broadway at the Belasco Theater. The show began performances on February 7, 2017, and previews, and officially opened on March 9th. It closed on May 21st of that year after 85 performances and 31 previews. Field had previously played the role in the Kennedy Center production of the show in 2004, and she was nominated for a Tony Award for her performance. Her memoir, In Pieces, was published in September of 2018. Field returned to episodic television in 2018, starting in the Netflix series Maniac, and subsequently in 2020 she appeared in the AMC series Dispatches from Elsewhere. In 2023, Field co-starred in the comedy movie 80 for Brady, which starred NFL quarterback Tom Brady, along with fellow actresses Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Rita Moreno. Also in 2023, she was named the 58th recipient of the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award, which was presented to her at the 29th Annual Screen Actors Guild Awards that same year. In 2005, Field was diagnosed with osteoporosis. Her diagnosis led her to create the Rally with Sally for Bone Health campaign with support from Roche and GlaxoSmithKline that controversially co-promoted Boniva, a bisulfonate treatment for osteoporosis. Field's campaign encouraged the early diagnosis of such conditions through technology such as bone density scans. In 2005, she received the Golden Plate Award of the American Academy of Achievement, presented in recognition of her lifetime of contributions to the arts as well as her dedication as a social activist. During her acceptance speech at the 2007 Emmy Awards, where she won lead actress in a drama series, she said, "If the mothers ruled the world, there would be no goddamn wars in the first place." Fox, which aired the show, cut the sound and picture after the word God and did not return camera sound to the stage until after Field finished talking. An email statement from the company the day after the incident explained that the censorship of Field's speech, among two other censorship incidents during the awards ceremony, occurred before some language during the live broadcast may have been considered inappropriate for some viewers. As a result, Fox's broadcast standard executives determined it appropriately to drop the sound and picture during the portions of the show. Field is an advocate for women's rights. She had served on the board of directors of the Vital Voices Global Partnership, an international women's NGO, and had co-hosted the Global Leadership Awards 6 times. A Democrat, Field supported Hillary Clinton's bid for the Democratic Party nomination in the 2008 presidential election and Kamala Harris's 2024 presidential campaign. Fields is also an advocate for gay rights and won the Human Rights Campaign's Ally for Equality Award in 2012. Her youngest son, Samuel Griezmann, is gay. Field was arrested on December 13, 2019, while attending Jane Fonda's weekly Friday climate change protest in Washington, D.C. And having undergone a traumatic illegal abortion in Mexico at the age of 17, Fields is a vocal advocate for abortion rights in the United States. Throughout her illustrious career, Sally Field has received a number of awards, including 2 Academy Awards, 3 Emmy Awards, 2 Golden Globe Awards, and 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards. And when I think of Sally Field as an actress, she's always that person I always think of as a movie mother that I know she's not my real mother, but like you ever have those people that tell you who their mother and father would be if they could have a celebrity as their father? Like some people would say, "Oh, I want Arnold Schwarzenegger to be my father," or Sylvester Stallone to be my father. For some reason, I always found Sally Field like if I had a choice for an actress to be my mother in real life, like I really would choose Sally Field, because I never saw Sally Field as somebody who could, like, it's weird, like it's a weird thing. Sally Field always feels like that mother that, you know, she'll love and protect you no matter what, but she's not afraid to speak up when she has to say that something is screwed up here, and has to go out there and be something that people don't want her to be. Like, you see that a lot in her roles. Like, a lot of the movies that she's in, from Sybil to Norma Ray to Steel Magnolias to Absence of Malice, you know, she could be that tough, hard person that is not afraid to tackle serious subjects and get you to realize that, hey, maybe you need to take a look at yourself and really think about what you're doing here. But she can also be very funny and very charismatic too, as we've seen her in movies like Smokey and the Bandit and also Mrs. Doubtfire and Murphy's Romance, and among many others. Like, she's always one of those actresses that I always have a lot of respect for, and every time I see her in anything, I always get excited to see what she does next, because she really does give 110% in a lot of her film roles, and she has a lot of range as an actress as a whole. She can be very funny, she can be very silly, she can be very serious, she can be very charismatic, she can be a lot of things. Like, she has a lot of range as an actress, and that's what I really admire about her as a whole. She really is one of those great actresses out there, and it was weird, because when I was putting this together, I really had a hard time figuring out who's my favorite actress, really? Because, like, I have a lot of favorite actors. Like, Denzel Washington, of course, I consider the greatest actor we have right now, Tom Hanks. But when it comes to actresses, I found it much harder than I really thought of. I always think of, you always think of, Meryl Streep, of course, obviously. But sometimes I think Jennifer Lawrence is a really good actress. I think that she should be in that list here. And then when I really thought about it, Sally Field has been in so many movies that have such memories to me. Like Mrs. Doubtfire is one I watch a lot as a kid. I watch it even nowadays with a lot of fond memories, of course, because it's a classic. A lot of these great movies that she's in, like, she very rarely misses the mark in a movie, in a TV show. And even when she does, like a good actor should, she's the least of those movies' problems. Like, she was not the reason why the movie 80 for Brady was not a good movie. That movie had a lot of other problems on its own merits. And if anything, those actresses really elevated the film a little bit more to being somewhat tolerable. But at the same time, it's just like they deserved a lot better than that. At the same time, they do deserve a lot better than that. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that Sally Field probably is one of my favorite actresses, because she really does have this wide range all across the board of what she is when she's on screen. And she also, and like I said, she is kind of like the equivalent of a movie mother to not just me, but I think a lot of people. I mean, she really does show a lot of care in these performances, and you do really get behind her in nearly every role she's in. Like, she's really she's really done a great job over these last 6 decades, showing everybody that she's not just this girl that started her career off in these really cheesy TV shows of the time, and she's gone on to become one of the great actresses that we've had right now. And so, with that said, I felt like it was right to put her in this category, in this pedigree that I have with such legendary talents like Steven Spielberg, like Denzel Washington, and like Conan O'Brien. People that I always look forward to seeing no matter what they're in, because they've entertained me for so many years, and they very rarely miss the mark. And that's why I put her in this list here. I think she's a terrific actress. I think she's one of the dominant actresses that we've had. And, yeah, I really have no reservations whatsoever about putting her in this list here. So, Sally Field, welcome to the Reviewing Network Lifetime Achievement Award category. So, congratulations. Congratulations to Sally Field on joining Steven Spielberg, Denzel Washington, and Conan O'Brien in the Reviewing Network Achievement Award Hall of Fame. You more than deserve one of these awards. Congratulations to you. So with all of that said, it is now time for the moment of truth. The Best Picture. It's hard to select from the 10 best films that I have selected here. It's even harder to choose one winner. So will there be more than one winner? Tough to say. Who knows? Only I know, but I won't let you know until after I read you the nominations. And they are Inside Out 2, The Wild Robot, Orion and the Dark, Hundreds of Beavers, Saturday Night, Piece by Piece, If, Honora, Challengers, and Lisa Frankenstein. And the winner of this year's Reviewing Network Award for the Best Picture of 2024 goes to... Let's build the suspense here a little bit. Building the suspense. The winner is The Wild Robot. Yes, I know that I said that Inside Out 2 was my favorite film of the year. And yes, I know it's weird to not have my favorite film of the year win the Best Picture award. But like I said, when I was putting that list together, it was a 2-film race between Inside Out 2 and The Wild Robot. And Inside Out 2 is the great animated feature, but The Wild Robot really is a film that I really love to the point where I have no choice but to give it Best Picture, because this is what Chris Sanders does so well. This is a guy that has made so many great movies in his career, not just as an animator at Disney, but as a director. He did Lilo and Stitch. He did How to Train Your Dragon. He did The Croods. When he made it to live action with The Call of the Wild, I thought that was really good, even though most people didn't. But The Wild Robot definitely is his crowning achievement. It's definitely a film that works in so many levels, to the point where I'm still debating whether or not it's the best animated film that DreamWorks has ever made, which is a tough thing to say, but that's how good this movie is. This is a film that is so well done, based off of a series of books, but they do such a great job of making you feel like this is a film that could have easily come out in the 1980s. Like, this feels like an 80s G movie in a 2020 modern PG world, where any animated film that comes out automatically gets the PG rating. Like, the G rating doesn't even exist anymore. This film feels like 80s G, like back when 80s G actually meant something. It wasn't afraid to go dark. I mean, it goes for some dark moments early on in the movie. I mean, literally, the main character of the movie literally kills a group of eggs and this bird, where one of the birds actually becomes essentially the mother to this character, played brilliantly by Lupita Nyong'o. And just like with Transformers 1 and Brian Tyree Henry, this robot throughout this movie matures. It learns to understand more and more of its surroundings and its situations in order to survive with situations here, and becomes a different person than it started off at the beginning of the movie. In the case of Transformers 1, it's somebody starting off as a promising person and turning to the dark side. But in this film, it's somebody who starts off with no real indication of how the world works as a whole, only what it's been programmed to do. But as it spends more time with these animals and starts to realize that, she needs to be the protector of these animals because they treat her better than like family more than the actual family that created her. And again, a strong performance by Lupita Nyong'o, beautiful animation to look at, a score that is so well done by Chris Bowers. Just a masterpiece of a movie. It's a very emotional film, beautifully animated, a very strong voice cast. It also includes Kit Harington, Pedro Pascal, Catherine O'Hara, Bill Nighy, Mark Hamill, Stephanie Hsu, and it's just a towering achievement. One of the best things DreamWorks has made in a long, long time. And like I said, it was really, really hard to choose this over Inside Out 2 as the best film of the year. So I figured, you know what? I'm already giving Inside Out 2 the Best Animated Feature Award. This deserves Best Picture of the Year. So congratulations to the folks at DreamWorks. Congratulations to Chris Sanders. Congratulations to The Wild Robot. You deserve this. The Best Picture of 2024. Congratulations. So that is the major awards, but we are not done just yet, because now it's time for your vote to count here, because this time around we have the worst. We've introduced a new category this year called the Worst Year in Hollywood Award, and I call this the Worst Year in Hollywood Award because this award is for anything in the world of entertainment. It could be for a movie, it could be for a scandal that's going on right now, it could be for a studio, it could be a television show, it could be anything. Who had the worst year in entertainment in 2024? I've selected 5 selections here. I asked you 6 selections, and I asked you folks at home to select the winner, and now your votes have been tabulated. And before I reveal the winner, here are the nominees for the Worst Year in Hollywood Award. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni for the continuing conflict going on between It Ends With Us. The film may have been a big hit in the summer of 2024, but the film is still being talked about, and not in a way that anyone was expecting it to, where Ryan Reynolds has been brought into the whole thing, and this is still a troubling case that continues to get more intense as it goes on here, with no real end in sight. Lionsgate, whose 2024 crop of films included Megalopolis, Borderlands, The Crow, Imaginary, and a plethora of other notorious flops. They hadn't had one #1 hit in 2024, and they hadn't had one in between The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and earlier this year with Den of Thieves 2 Pantera. Dwayne Johnson, who had a double whammy in the month of November with 2 notoriously bad movies, the infamously bad Red 1, and the regurgitated garbage that was Moana 2, which... Congratulations, you got $1 billion of people's hard-earned money on a regurgitated sequel from a Disney Plus TV series. Way to go, Disney. Excuse me. Kevin Costner. He left his hit series Yellowstone to gamble over $100 million of his own money on Horizon and American Saga, only for it to fail miserably at the box office. And, he still thinks that, he did nothing wrong. And, when Yellowstone ended, he was the one that was saying, I can't wait. I hope they invite me back onto the show. The reason why the show was ending was because you left the show because you wanted to spend your money on this wasted piece of garbage. But, anyway, Sony Pictures for the Marvel double whammy that was Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, 2 of the worst comic book movies ever made. And, of course, Madam Web was one of the worst movies of the year. Kraven the Hunter was up in the runner-up category. It says a lot when Venom is the best thing you've done as a studio with Sony and Marvel. And then Amelia Perez, with so many things going on, from the director to the production problems behind the scenes, from the leading actress of the film is keeping old tweets around that cost this film a chance to become a major frontrunner at the Academy Awards, to a film that we'll be lucky if it gets anything at all. So which one of those 5, I keep saying 5, which one of these 6 ended up being the worst year in Hollywood? There's only one way to find out. The winner is, or the loser I should say, the loser is, it's folded up, so that could mean something. The loser is Amelia Perez, and I mean, talk about a film that went from being a frontrunner for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, was nominated for the most Oscars this year of any other movie, and the last month and a half for this film has just been an utter disaster. I mean, where do you even start with a movie like this? Well, first of all, transgender people were really offended by what this movie did. I mean, they were a film that thought that this was a step back for trans representation. It was a profoundly retrograded portrayal of a trans woman, as according to GLAAD. There were so many people who were just like, they were so negative towards the film and its representation of transgender people in this movie. Mexico hated it. It was harshly criticized in Mexico and Latin America, and the film was seen as an abysmal mess from a number of different people. They were very offended at the fact that there was not a lot of Mexican actors in the roles that they were in. The idea of drug trafficking was hardly criticized by a lot of people. Like, you've got to be really terrible if people are getting mad at you for your poor misrepresentation of drug traffickers. I mean, that's something where it's just like, okay, something ain't right in Denmark here with this movie. The director had to come out and say that he did not study the Mexican context in depth. He's literally said, "No, I don't study that much. What I have to understand, I already know. What I had to understand, I already knew a little." And he basically said that Spanish is a language of emerging countries, of modern countries, of poor people and migrants. And later claimed those comments that were taken out of context. And if you have to say they're taken out of context, maybe you should keep your effing mouth shut to begin with, because the whole thing just makes it seem like this guy had no intentions on making a movie that represented the true what Mexico was all about. But everything that I have just said pales in comparison to the unmittable, veritable hell that Carla Sofia Gascon put on herself when she had to go out and defend some really harsh old tweets blasting, these are tweets that are literally tweets that could make or break you in this industry. There are tweets that attack Muslims. She criticized George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, diversity at the Academy Awards. She made comments about Islam and anti-Catalan sentiment. She attacked Christianity and Catholicism. She made racist comments towards China. And because of that, she went from being the front runner for this Best Actress nomination at the Academy Awards to somebody that is going to be lucky if she's even recognized when she steps foot at the Oscars next week. Because she's supposedly showing up next week. It's tomorrow, I should say. I'm recording this a week in advance, so that should tell you. But she is expected to be there tomorrow, as far as I know, on this date, February 22nd. But then she goes on to do this interview with CNN en Espanol, and I talked about it on the Reviewing Network Live. I thought, okay, well, I give her credit for at least coming out and trying to admit it, but I still didn't feel very confident about my decisions on that front. On how I feel about this overall. But as time has gone on, I can agree with most people that there was a lot, but there was rightful backlash for this, because it felt like something that was put there at the last minute as a last-ditch effort to save whatever was left of her saving graces here. It got so bad that Netflix decided to no longer fund Gascon's travel or fashion for the remainder of awards season. They removed her from all the awards campaign. The star of the movie was removed from this campaign as a whole because of this. Netflix had to put out a poster talking about the numerous wins and nomination tallies that the film had, and not even mention her whatsoever. Do you understand how much you have to screw up that badly to do something like that? The director doesn't want anything to do with her anymore. This is unbelievable how this whole thing has just completely careened down on this movie. This film was supposed to be a front runner for the Academy Awards, and now, like I said, it's going to be lucky if it wins anything. It might get Best Original Song, and again, it might win Zoe Saldana an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, but this is a film that has just had so much controversy going on, and it just is it's just really, really, I'd say it's bad to watch for a movie like this, but considering that the film is an unmitigated mess as it is, and definitely should not have been nominated. I mean, we've talked about this in my worst movies of the year list as one of the honorable mentions. It's definitely a film that did not deserve to be a Best Picture nominee, let alone get as many Oscar nominations as it did. It's a terrible movie, man, and the songs are just abysmal, but this is beyond the songs in the movie. This whole thing was just an unmitigated disaster that the creative control, the control on this should have been much better handled than what they ended up doing here. And they just let this stick out there for as long as it did, because a lot of people are going to be affected who made this movie, who wanted this movie, thinking that they made something special and made something that was going to be an awards contender. I feel so bad for the people who made this movie. I criticize them for how bad the movie is, but you know what? This is unbelievable how this film has just gone from being an awards darling to a film that everyone just wants to forget about so quickly. And some would say it's rightfully deserved, because she should have just kept her effing mouth shut. But at the same time, it's something where it's hard not to look at this and be like, this is about as bad as you think it would get. It's amazing how in a matter of months this thing has gone on to become such a a film that went from being a critical and awards darling to just a film that nobody wants to talk about again because everybody in here seems like they're the biggest scumbags possible. And, yeah, so there you go. That is Emilia Perez, easily the winner of the worst year in Hollywood. Because, yeah, I don't know how much worse you can get than what the hell that everybody has gone through in the last couple months with this. So that leads us to our final 2 awards here. And these are not a part of the official awards here, but these are 2 things that originated from Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert back when they did the If We Pick the Winner show back in the 1980s and 90s, where they decided to take a look at the worst nominations from this year's Academy Awards and the worst Oscars. And I added my own category here for the worst Oscar snub. And so I've got the worst nomination for this year's Academy Awards here, and I will reveal it to you right now. And the winner is, or the loser is, we have another tie, but this time it's related to the same movie. The worst nomination this year is Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong being nominated for Best Supporting Actor and Best Actor for The Apprentice, which is of course the Donald Trump movie, which was released by Briarcliff Entertainment, I think it was. That's kind of their way of saying that, hey, we're a major studio too. We're not just the company that just is Liam Neeson's retirement home. But yeah, they put this movie out there, The Apprentice, which all the other studios decided to hold back on, and this was before, he became president again. And look, this is nothing against. I'm not going to get political on here and talk about, Donald Trump as a presidential as the president and all that type of stuff. But I'm talking about the movie itself, which isn't a bad movie, but it just wasn't it just wasn't enough to say that that both Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong should have been nominated for this film. I feel like they put these 2 in this category, in the categories that they were in, because of the fact that it's a topical subject right now with Donald Trump, and the fact that that this was a film that was highly talked about, and this is kind of the zeitgeist nomination. This is the thing that, hey, if we nominate this, maybe we'll get Trump off our back, even though Donald Trump has even admitted to the fact that this is a defamatory, politically disgusting hatchet job. Which, what else is new with him? But the point I'm trying to make here is that the film wasn't even that good enough to be considered part of the nominations here. There were so many other better performances that you could have nominated in the Best Actor and the Best Supporting Actor category. There are so many other good performances in this year that really could have been used in these 2 slots that they have here. If you really want a zeitgeist nomination for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, you should have nominated Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman for Deadpool and Wolverine. One of the biggest hits of the year. Everyone loved that movie. Everyone loved seeing Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman working off each other. Why not give them the nomination? Why do we keep pretending like these blockbusters are not worthy of being Oscar contenders? I mean, blockbusters have been part of the Oscars since the very beginning. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, E.T. the Extraterrestrial were all nominated for Best Picture back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, yeah, they've done it. They've opened the field up more now with the 10 nominations, with more animated films getting nominated and more blockbusters like Black Panther and Joker. But the nominations here, I don't even think they were that great performances to begin with. Sebastian Stan is a good actor. I've seen him in a lot of other stuff. I think his Tommy Lee was much better than Donald Trump is. And Jeremy Strong, yeah, everyone loves Succession. He's great on Succession, but he's not that great as Roy Cohn in this movie. He is not that good in here. The only person in this movie who I thought was actually kind of good was Maria Bakalova as Ivana Trump. I thought she was the best thing about the film overall, but other than that, though, the film wasn't that good to begin with. It's just a film that it really felt like they were nominating that just for the sake of nominating this so they can have a zeitgeist nomination. So many other better films and better performances could have been nominated. You could have nominated somebody from Saturday Night. You could have nominated Cooper Hoffman. You could have nominated so many other better performances that came from this year's crop. You could have nominated John Lithgow and Conclave and Stanley Tucci. I heard they were getting a lot of good buzz for that movie. Maybe they should have taken those awards. There's so many other better performances that could have easily been fitted for those roles and for those slots in the Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor category, besides Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong. I just don't think they should have been in there. I think there should have been there were much better performances that could have easily filled those spots, no question about it. So with that said about the worst nomination, what about the films that the Academy decided not to even bother taking a glimpse at? Well, that's what we have here with the worst Oscar snub. This is my creation. This is where I take something that should have been added to the Oscar nominations this year, and might as well go ahead and tell you my thoughts on what should have been included in this year's nominations. Now, this one I think is going to be the one that costs us the paper cut, because the other ones have been easy to open up here, but this one is sealed tight. So, the selection I have here for the worst Oscar snub is... Oh, maybe not. Maybe I can... The worst Oscar snub. It's another tie, but for a good reason. The worst Oscar snubs are Superman the Christopher Reeve story, Will and Harper, and Jim Henson Idea Man not being nominated for Best Documentary. And if you've watched the Academy Awards, then you know the documentary branch is easily the most inept group of people when it comes to nominating documentaries. You have a documentary about a man who, got people, was really, he really was Superman to a lot of people when, he got this accident with a horse and he could never walk again. And the fact that he lived as long as he did made for this really great documentary that came out in theaters and a limited group of theaters in general, but was such a terrific film that, it just made you realize how much people really loved Christopher Reeve, and it didn't feel like it was something that was being made as just a cheap emotional ploy. Like, it was a film that was made from the heart and showed what a great man Christopher Reeve really was. You have a story where Will Ferrell and this writer, Harper Steele, are making this 17-day road trip across the U.S., and Harper Steele recently just had a gender transition, and so they're going on this journey, and it's such an engaging and inspiring film that really shows what Will Ferrell is capable of doing, and, really works very well here, and it doesn't feel forced whatsoever. It was named as one of the top 5 documentaries of the year by the National Board of Review. And then Jim Henson Idea Man, which was the Ron Howard Disney Plus documentary, which chronicled Jim Henson's life while he was making all these different movies, and definitely felt new and different compared to most documentaries. It didn't feel like a documentary that was just doing the same old stuff all over again. This is a documentary that's right up there with Waking Sleeping Beauty and Howard as one of the best documentaries of the last 10 years. I mean, this is such a terrific documentary. All 3 of those were not nominated. You want to know what was nominated? Black Box Diaries. You remember that one? No Other Land. Anyone remember that one? Porcelain War, soundtrack to a Coupe de Tea. Sugar Cane? Not ringing a bell with anybody? Good, because that's been the problem with the documentary branch for so many years. They pick these movies that they think should be considered the best documentary of the year, when they're really not. They're just documentaries that are made by the people that make the most generic, the most bland documentaries out there, and I've not heard one single thing about any of these documentaries to say that Superman, Will and Harper, or Jim Henson Idea Man should not have been included in this list. But wait, you're asking yourself, this was just 1 year. I mean, it's not like they've been notoriously known for doing this all the time. Yeah, you're completely wrong on that one. They have been notoriously known for doing this many times. There have been so many good documentaries that have not even gotten a sniff of an Oscar nomination that should have been well represented. The Howard Ashman documentary I mentioned before, didn't even get a nomination, even though probably would not have won, considering it was in the same year as Summer of Soul, which was one of the best, which was easily a good documentary that deserved to be in that list, no question about it. But Free Solo was won the 1 year. That was a great movie. O.J. Made in America was a great one. Amy was a great one. There's been good documentaries out there, but there's been a lot of documentaries that don't get the proper attention they deserve, and films that should have definitely been in that category. And it's so fitting that we're talking about this as we're now 30 years from one of the most infamous documentary snubs of all time, and that is, of course, Hoop Dreams not getting a single Best Documentary nomination because of the fact that the documentary branch was so did not want Hoop Dreams to win. They literally gave it the lowest possible grade that they could give it on purpose. They purposefully sabotaged this movie so that these lesser films that weren't anywhere near as good as Hoop Dreams is, could win the award. That's something that has haunted that place has haunted the documentary branch for so long. It is something that is still stuck with them for how badly they poorly represented that movie in general, and how they just completely tossed it to the side. Hoop Dreams got an editing nomination. If the editors of that movie, which was over 3 hours long but still entertaining all across the board, if they can appreciate what that film did, what that movie did, to give it the nomination, then the documentary branch of the Academy should have done the same thing. But no, they purposely sabotaged it for stupid reasons that are even beyond me. And it's something that is still being talked about to this very day. It's something where, like, they literally stopped the film after 15 minutes. Like, that's how much they really did everything they could to stop this movie from getting any kind of recognition whatsoever. I mean, just think about that. Just think about this for a second. Like, you have this movie that everyone praised it. It was on many top 10 lists in 1994 as the year's best movie, and yet nobody at the documentary branch couldn't sit through 15 minutes of it. And when they actually got the results from Price Waterhouse, they found out that most of the that they rated them all zero. Most of the people that they nominated it zeros, and that pushed it to 6th place in the nominations. Now, you would think after Hoop Dreams, they would be looking at these other documentaries coming out over the next 30 years and be like, well, we don't want to make the same mistake that we did with Hoop Dreams. We're going to change our ways around. But nope. They still have continued to do this every single year. And this was a problem even before Hoop Dreams did it. Here's a list of some of the nominated documentaries that the documentary branch did not nominate for Best Documentary. Gimme Shelter, Gates of Heaven, The Thin Blue Line, Shoah, Roger and Me, Crumb, The Celluloid Closet, American Movie, Fahrenheit 9/11, Grizzly Man, Blackfish, Life Itself, Won't You Be My Neighbor, Apollo 11, Boy State. Documentaries that you've seen on many best documentaries of all time lists, and yet none of them have been nominated for Best Documentary. Start to see the problem here? Like, I really feel like we need to thread in the Robot Chicken clip of the woman throwing the hot dog in the middle of the hotel, the hallway, and being like, "Do you see the problem here?" And the documentary branch will be like, "Yeah, that hallway is extremely huge." Like, that's the thinking with the documentary branch. I don't know who's running that group, but man, somebody needs to come in and really completely just tell them, "Hey, you got to stop doing this, man, because this is getting ridiculous." 3 really good documentaries that came out last year don't even get awards recognition whatsoever because the documentary branch is too stubborn and too so up there with you-know-what to actually nominate good documentaries instead of these documentaries that you're never going to remember after Sunday, March 2nd. There's no way you're going to remember any of these documentaries. Hell, I don't even know what any of these documentaries are. When I made my predictions for the Oscars at the end of this show that you're going to see here, I just had to pick one that I thought, okay, which one sounds like an Oscar winner is out of the group here. So you'll have to wait to see what I have to say about that one. But you get the idea here. You had 3 really great documentaries that came out last year that should have gotten nominations, should have been represented in this category, and would have made this a much more interesting category than it actually is. But it just wasn't there. And you just, like, what does the documentary branch have? What do we have to do with the documentary branch to actually get them to see the good documentaries? Honestly. But there you go. That's my thoughts on the worst Oscar snub. Superman, Wilma Harper, Jim Henson Idea Man, completely not being shown in the Best Documentary Feature category, and that's a damn shame. So with all of that said, I thank you all so much for joining me for the 3rd Annual Reviewing Network Awards, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I gave you a nice little alternative to the Academy Awards tomorrow. Hopefully this gives us something that hopefully this gives us a good show tomorrow. If I had to pick a movie a movie or performance that I'm really hoping wins big tomorrow night. First one I think of is The Wild Robot. I hope that wins Best Animated Feature. But in terms of which movie I'm rooting for Best Picture, it is definitely a 3-way tie. It's not even a 3-way tie, but a lot of good movies in this category this year. Nora, I think that's the big one. I think everyone's expecting to win, which I hope it does. I'd be happy if The Substance wins. I'd be happy if A Complete Unknown wins. Wicked, Dune Part 2. I mean, any one of those nominations, any one of those Best Pictures, I think could easily make me happy if they win. As long as it's not Emilia Perez, except for Zoe Saldana, I think I'll be perfectly fine with that. But thank you guys so much for joining us here. This is always great to do every year, and I hope you will be willing to join me next year. It's on the Saturday before the 98th Academy Awards. But with all that said, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a great night. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for making this such a success. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.